They'll call it luck. They'll say it was just good timing, or that you were born with something they weren't. But what they won't see are the hours you spent alone, fighting battles in your own head. They won't see the early mornings where you woke up with nothing but a vision and a decision not to give in. They'll overlook the quiet moments where you could have broken, but didn't. See, inner power isn't something you stumble into. It's not given, and it's not inherited. It's built, deliberately, patiently, in silence. It's forged in discipline, shaped in solitude, and tested in the dark. You don't attract clarity, strength, or peace by waiting. You draw them in by becoming the kind of person they belong to. And when your mind is trained, really trained, the world starts to respond. Not by accident, but because you've changed what you radiate. If that speaks to something real in you, there's just one simple free favor I'll ask. Hit that subscribe button. Let's begin. It's not a finish line you cross. It's a rhythm you lock into, a quiet frequency that most people never notice. But once you feel it, you can't ignore it. Inner power doesn't show up all at once. It builds slowly, layered through repetition, through discipline, through clarity that doesn't waver when things get uncomfortable. It's like tuning a piano, not for beauty, but for precision. So every note, every move, lands with intention. You shape your mindset the same way, a constant refinement. No grand gestures, just steady hands working on something no one else sees. The changes are often invisible at first. The world won't notice the early mornings, the mental realignments, the small decisions you make to stay in control, but they stack, they accumulate, and one day the results speak louder than any explanation ever could. To hold that kind of power, to stay grounded in it, you start with one truth. Your mind is not your enemy, but it is wild, powerful, intelligent, and capable of building or breaking your future. Left alone, it drifts toward comfort, distraction, fear. But when trained, it sharpens, it protects, it leads. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And that's the reality for most, living out silent scripts written by an untrained mind. That's why the first move each day isn't outward, it's inward, before the noise, before the opinions. Before you step into someone else's urgency, you meet yourself. Quietly, directly. You decide what kind of energy walks into the day, not what the world expects, but what you know is aligned. There's no waiting for motivation, no chasing inspiration. You move because you've chosen to. You build because it's who you are now. This is no longer reaction. This is design. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's not about forcing fake smiles or repeating affirmations you don't believe. It's about becoming precise, focused, aligned, like a Stoic would. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for the world to calm down before choosing virtue. He practiced it in the middle of chaos. Inner power isn't about wishing for an easier path. It's about deciding who you are, even when everything around you is falling apart. You don't beg the world for respect. You stop waiting for signs. You stop hoping someone will choose you, validate you, or hand you permission. Instead, you become someone the world can't ignore. Not because you're loud, but because your presence carries weight. That kind of presence starts with something most people skip over: identity. Plato once said, "The first and best victory is to conquer self." That's the real battle. Every belief you hold is either sharpening your direction or dulling your edge. And identity isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you build, with clarity, with effort, with intention, day by day, thought by thought, habit by habit. Are you just trying to survive? Or are you here to build something? Because the difference is massive. One waits, one reacts, the other decides. Most people never pause long enough to notice the story they're living in. They act like they're stuck, but they've never even looked at the script. It was written years ago, by fear, by culture, by someone else's idea of what's possible. And they're still following it, wondering why nothing changes. But you're not here to follow, you're here to rewrite. You're reclaiming the pen, not through fantasy, but through deliberate edits. You remove the noise, you cut out self-pity like it's poison. You build thoughts that support you, not sabotage you. And over time, your mindset becomes architecture, strong enough to hold steady when the pressure comes, because it will come. That's not negativity, that's life. And as Aristotle said, you will never do anything in this world without courage. It is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. Courage is what allows you to stay grounded when everything wants to shake you loose. It's what keeps you focused when fear gets loud. People will doubt you. Some of them will smile while they do it. Your own thoughts will try to drag you back to the familiar. And distractions, they'll come disguised as good ideas, urgent problems, tempting exits. But a trained mind doesn't take the bait. It sees the pattern. It stays rooted. It adapts. It learns. It grows sharper with every test. So let me offer something real. What are you feeding your mind when no one's around to see it? Is it silence or noise, depth or distraction? Are you letting comparison and complaint take root, making yourself believe you're already behind? Or are you planting thoughts that point you forward, that steady you, that remind you who you really are when the world forgets? Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Most people stay asleep with their eyes wide open because they're always looking outward, chasing timelines, opinions, trends. But none of that was built for you. It was built to distract you from building yourself. If your mind is always tuned to what everyone else is doing, thinking, posting, you'll forget why you started. You'll drift, and that drift is dangerous. You're not here to consume someone else's story. You're here to write your own, and it starts with what you choose to allow in. Not every voice deserves your attention. Not every comment is worth your energy. You don't need to track every trend to stay aligned with your purpose. Real clarity is found in filtering. Real focus comes from choosing, from deciding what gets space in your head and what gets cut out completely. That's where power begins. Not in the spotlight, but in the quiet, when no one's watching and it's just you and your thoughts. That's the moment that matters. That's the proving ground. When it's easier to scroll, but you choose to stay still. When it's tempting to complain, but you choose to correct. That's the work. And it doesn't look like much, but it's everything. Your mind is soil, more fertile than most people realize. Every thought is a seed, and your emotions, they're the water. What you feel gives power to what you think. You're planting every day, even when you're unaware. The mind doesn't ask if what you're planting is good for you. It just grows what you feed it. That's why people live stuck in patterns they never meant to create. It wasn't intentional, but it was consistent. And what you do consistently becomes who you are. But here's the opportunity. Once you become conscious of it, you can shift everything. You can plant on purpose. You can feed your mind clarity instead of chaos. You can choose strength over stress, direction over distraction, vision over noise. Ask yourself, are you reinforcing discipline or hesitation? Are you building a mindset that leads or one that waits, hesitates, reacts? Because the gap between the life you're living and the one you're capable of isn't filled in one big moment. It's built in the spaces between the small ones. It's in the choice to stay calm when your instincts want to explode. It's in the discipline to give your energy to what matters, not just what's loud. It's in the habit of rising early, tuning into your intention before the world throws its weight on your shoulders, and reminding yourself, this mind is mine. I don't drift. I decide. That's what separates the locked in from the lost. Not talent, not luck. Just small, consistent alignment with who you're becoming. But what does it really mean to decide? True decision isn't about choosing between A or B. It's not a preference, it's a commitment. A full body, no turning back declaration. It's drawing a line and saying, this is where it ends. That version of me doesn't cross this point. As Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, and knowing yourself also means knowing which parts of you no longer belong in the future you're building. So who needs to go? Not in a dramatic way, but in the most honest way possible. The version of you that overthinks instead of acts. The one that clings to comfort and calls it patience. The one that folds under pressure and then spins a story to explain it away. That version can't lead. It can't handle the weight of vision. It can't survive in the environment you're meant to thrive in. So you let it go. You bury it under new standards. You replace it with patterns that match your purpose. Not because it's easy, but because staying the same is no longer acceptable. And what remains when you do that? Stillness, strength, simplicity. The trained mind doesn't spiral in doubt or chase every emotion like it's urgent. It doesn't stop to question every impulse or justify delay. It moves with calm conviction. It knows what needs to be done, and it does it. Not recklessly, not rushed, but deliberately. Because it's been conditioned through consistency, not emotion. Motivation isn't required. Movement creates the momentum. You don't sit around waiting for the perfect state of mind. You move and the mind follows. The readiness shows up after you've already begun. That's real power, not energy that shows up when it feels good, but discipline that kicks in when it doesn't. To be the kind of person who acts from identity, not from impulse. Socrates said, the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. That's exactly what this is. You're not wrestling your past anymore. You're constructing your future. One habit, one choice, one quiet internal shift at a time. This is where the separation happens. Dabblers pause. They wait. They depend on mood, on hype, on signs. But dominators, they build in silence. They don't wait for the world to catch up or the stars to align. They start. They move. They trust what they've trained. They don't rely on external push. They run on internal pull. Purpose becomes the engine, and that energy, it doesn't just power movement, it reshapes everything. Eventually, the world starts to bend, not because you forced it, but because you became the kind of person it has no choice but to respond to. Most people have that backwards. They think change starts outside. If their environment improves, then they'll focus. If they get support, then they'll believe. If everything lines up just right, then they'll begin. But life doesn't shift for wishes. It responds to standards. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Meaning, until you raise the standards quietly running the show in your mind, your life will follow the same script, no matter how badly you say you want a different one. So take a real look. What are your current standards saying about you? Are you allowing thoughts in your head that don't even belong to you? Still holding on to beliefs passed down by fear, failure, or someone else's limitations? Still speaking like you're on hold, waiting for permission, waiting to feel ready, waiting for the green light? That mindset needs to be cut at the root. Not questioned, refused. Stop speaking like someone who hasn't begun, because the moment you start speaking from power, even quietly, you begin shifting the system. You start rewriting identity from the inside out. Say it and mean it. I'm already in motion. Don't talk like a struggler trying to keep up. Speak like a builder, someone shaping something real, something intentional. Don't think like a skeptic picking everything apart until you're too frozen to act. Think like an architect, someone who sees structure in the empty lot, someone who can visualize the final shape before a single brick is laid. That's how the shift begins. Not with hype, not with motivation, with repetition. Over and over, not just in what you say, but in what you do. What you rehearse becomes what you remember, and what you remember becomes what you act on. You don't become a new version of yourself by accident. You repeat the thoughts that serve you. You act on them until they hardwire. This isn't theory. It's not a mindset hack. It's how your brain actually works. Each time you choose the thought, the action, the tone that aligns with the person you're becoming, you strengthen a new path. Over time, that path becomes instinct. That's how identity gets installed. That's how your future gets built, one groove at a time. So echo power, not just when it's easy, not just when things go your way, but constantly, through every thought, every action, every quiet decision. Let your energy carry the message. I know who I am, and I know what I'm building. Most people don't even realize they're echoing doubt, rehearsing fear, speaking from a place of resignation without ever questioning it. But not you. You've seen too much. You've felt the pull of something deeper. You look where others avoid. You build where others hesitate. You don't wait to be picked. You start paving your own path. To do that, you have to stop reacting like a follower. You have to stop giving the world permission to shape your emotions, your pace, your focus. That power, it's yours. Take it back. Not with noise, but with presence. A grounded, unshakable presence that doesn't ask for approval. Think like a force. Move like a decision. Speak like someone who no longer negotiates with weakness. And no, that doesn't come from confidence. Not really. Confidence is the side effect, the outcome. Inner power doesn't need to announce itself. It's not about how loud you are or how perfect everything looks. It comes from clarity. Still, focused, immovable clarity. And clarity doesn't show up by accident. It's earned through commitment, not to external noise, but to the voice inside you. The one you've known was there before the world got loud. That kind of clarity starts with remembering the vision. Not the one you shared online, but the one you scribbled in a journal or whispered to yourself when no one was watching. The vision that scared you because it felt too real, too personal, too different from what everyone expected, but it never left. It's still there, waiting for you to stop explaining, stop postponing, and start living it. So reclaim it. Reclaim your mornings, the untouched space before the world floods in. That's where your edge sharpens. That's where you find stillness and set your direction. No notifications, no noise, just you. Honest, undistracted. That's where identity is reinforced. That's where you remember what matters before the day tries to convince you otherwise. Reclaim your focus. In a world starving for attention, protect yours like gold. Train it, strengthen it, keep it on what matters. Because Aristotle was right. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Focus is your habit now. Intention is your new baseline. And if you want a real edge, it's that. It's your ability to stay with yourself longer than the world can distract you. Your ability to stay grounded when everyone else is chasing speed. It's your depth, your stillness, your calm when everyone else is spiraling. That's not a disadvantage, that's your armor. So when it gets hard, and it will, don't pull back. Don't mistake discomfort for a problem. Most people do. But resistance isn't a stop sign, it's a signal. It's the exact moment where transformation begins. The moment your past self would have turned around. Now you lean in. Growth will never feel soft. It feels like tension, like friction, like the edge of who you were rubbing up against who you're becoming. And Carl Jung said it clearly, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. It's not just theory, it's truth. Growth costs something, and that cost is pressure. But pressure is what builds the strongest minds, the sharpest awareness, the deepest clarity. So when it comes, don't run, don't resist. Use it. Let it shape you like a chisel sharpens stone. Let the losses carve wisdom. Let the setbacks build patience. Let the tension refine your edge. Because a trained mind doesn't resent the storm, it adapts to it. It integrates the pain. It turns everything into fuel. That's the difference. Suffering waits for rescue. Power rises from the fire and keeps walking. Understood. Here's the revised version with a smoother flow, reduced reliance on questions, and a more declarative tone. This isn't the kind of power that needs to be loud. It doesn't show off. It doesn't try to control anyone or anything. True power is steady, quiet, centered. It speaks through presence, not performance. When you walk into a room carrying it, people feel it, long before you say a word. Socrates said, "The greatest way to live with honor in this world is to be what we pretend to be." That kind of power isn't borrowed. It's built. It doesn't chase approval. It doesn't seek permission. It simply exists because it's real. This version of you is not the result of luck or perfect timing. It's the result of design. Day by day, with quiet focus, you chose to construct who you are. Not with noise, but with deliberate action. Like a builder with a blueprint, you laid the foundation with intention. You stopped pretending to be strong and started training to be. Every thought became a brick, every habit, the cement holding it all together, and every emotion, yes, even the hard ones, was turned into fuel. The process isn't glamorous. It's not always visible, but it's powerful. Self-talk becomes structure, habits become armor, and when weakness tries to creep in, there's no conversation, no negotiation. You remember the standard. You stay aligned with what you're building. Excellence isn't a moment, it's a rhythm. Aristotle understood this. We are what we repeatedly do. Power isn't found at the top, it's built at the base. You weren't made to merely get by. You were made to command your direction with intention, to give generously, not from depletion, but from abundance, to raise the bar, not because the world owes you something, but because you've earned the identity of someone who leads, and you lead not with ego, but with groundedness. The training never stops. It's daily. It's deliberate. Over time, repetition becomes transformation. When the mind is conditioned, everything changes. Thought patterns shift. Decisions become cleaner. Words carry weight. And life, slowly, starts to respond. Not out of coincidence, but as a reflection of who you've become. This kind of power doesn't force the world to change. It compels it. The world doesn't change when you wish for it. It changes when you change. At the level of thought, belief, identity. Train your mind and the rest will follow. If this resonated with you, there's another video on the screen right now that I think you'll want to watch next. It goes even deeper. Thank you for being here and for being part of Stoic Journal. This space is for those who think deeper, move slower, and build stronger. I'll see you in the next one. Same clarity, same purpose. Stay steady